what's been the most exciting aspect of your degree so far?
Oh, personally, I really enjoyed teaching, and when I got into PhD, that's when lecturers started approaching me about potential work in teaching as an academic tutor. So you manage classes of like 20, and you get marking opportunities too. And yeah, I really enjoyed the teaching component of what getting into PhD could bring me. I really enjoyed that. And of course, that led me to today, where I'm a full-time lecturer now at Vic Uni. So yeah.
So do you think like all those aspects of the teaching and stuff has actually helped you grow within your criminological degree path and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, part of being a lecturer and an academic is you've got to stay up to date with like the bleeding edge research. Journal articles are constantly coming out every single day. Criminology is evolving. The law constantly evolves. So you've got to be sort of on top of it. And I guess being a lecturer forces you to be on top of what's going on in the crim world, I suppose.
That's true. There was a lot of stuff coming out every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming when it comes to your research for assignments, because there's so much research out there that you're just like, oh.
Exactly.
But then you find the good ones. And then you're just like, this is why I'm doing this.
Exactly. And the hardest bit is trying to condense it into whatever the limitations are for the assignment. 2,000 words is not a lot. I always struggled with trying to keep it under the
word count.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're experiencing that, you are not alone.
So do you have any major career goals in criminology, or are you just happy being a lecturer and a researcher?
Yeah, look, I'm really happy where I am. So but there are people who want to be more engaged in the actual field itself. I think because I've had like a little bit of experience in youth justice, like I've sort of ticked that box for me. But yeah, potentially I'm looking at work experience just so I can stay in touch with the system, maybe every fortnight on the weekend or something. There's lots of like volunteer opportunities. So yeah, but right now I'm very happy. Yes.
Well, volunteering would definitely help stay up to date with a lot of stuff, just like research does, because you're getting a first-hand account.
Absolutely.
Rather than looking at a paper.
Exactly.
And reading what someone else's thoughts are.
Yes, absolutely.
Get to make your own opinions, and that's all that really matters in criminology, as well as not really debating too much about others, but understanding where they're coming from.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of criminology, is there's no right or wrong. It's just sort of how you pose the argument. Yeah.
So we're actually to the last question.
Great.
Is any advice you have for any current or future criminology students? Or
oh wow, that is a really good question. Advice. I think the biggest advice I would have is to stay in touch with your lecturers or form a connection with a particular lecturer that you gravitate towards, that is quite open and friendly and can give you advice after you graduate. So keep maintaining those connections, but also, like I said, look for volunteering opportunities, because obviously the sooner you can engage in the system, the better. That way you can pop it on your resume, and you can say when you go to your job interview for your job within the field, you can say, hey, I've actually got the experience. I haven't just been sort of, studying completely. I've also had the involvement with the justice system. Yeah.
The experience. So just, sorry, I know that was the last question.
No, go for it. Go for it.
You said before that the teachers approached you or the lecturers approached you for the teaching job that you're in now, or that direction you went in. But for the youth justice, did you do volunteering in that field before you got that job on youth justice, or how did you?
Yeah, great question, Corinne. Yeah. So no, I didn't. So I didn't follow my own advice that I'm giving now. So to get into the youth justice, so my job was a youth justice worker at Parkville Youth Justice Centre. And my job was basically to try and work with young offenders about their crime, and sort of try and help their rehabilitation and get them ready for reintegration back into society. So to get into that type of job, you needed an undergrad, but it didn't have to specifically be in crim. It just had to be in a related discipline. So we had people in my induction group come from like, Bachelor of Psychology, Bachelor of Sociology, Bachelor of Youth Work, Social Work. So yeah, the minimum you need is a degree to get into that type of area. Yeah.
Do you regret it, or do you think that like you saw a lot of bad things in the youth justice? Do you ever regret going into it?
No, just because I learned so much. There's obviously only so much you can read about and fully understand it, but you don't fully understand the complexities of why offenders offend until you meet the people who offend. And, that's on a whole different level when you're meeting people who haven't just stolen from Kmart, they've killed their own father, for instance. That's a whole different ball game, so much to consider. And, you learn about how to approach offenders like that in as much of a non-judgmental way as possible. It's definitely a emotionally difficult or challenging job at times, but it's also rewarding to see offenders slowly rehabilitate over time the more you work with them.
And so needed too.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I do actually have one more question regarding that, but like, how did you separate your work life with your home life? Like, 'cause you saw a lot, so it would have been a bit difficult to separate every now and then. So how did you manage to do that?
Absolutely. It was very difficult, because I think maybe I was naive, or I was lucky enough to be brought up in a very loving home, in a nice environment. And it honestly was a bit of a shock, because you read about it and you think you understand, but until you actually meet these people and their because you work with their families too, you realize, oh God, like that's a lot to take on. And it's quite sad. It can get you down, or it can make you feel like, oh, the work I'm doing with this person right now is good, but the minute they go back home, it's just a cycle again. We're probably going to see them back here. And I saw that a few times, people, coming and going, like a boomerang. Yeah.
Boomerang.
Yeah. So it is emotionally difficult. When you work in a job like that, you have to see a psychologist that is on duty all the time at the precinct, and you're scheduled in for psychology appointments to go, because of course their stories impact you. But like you said, it's important to put up a barrier. And I think something that helped me with youth justice and putting up that wall is actually the physical wall of youth justice. So as soon as we call it the wall, which is basically separating obviously the outside to inside the prison. So as soon as you enter, oh, beautiful cat.
Sorry, Freya.
As soon as you enter the wall, that's where you turn the switch on and you go into work mode. But it's very important that as soon as you exit the wall and you're on the outers or the outside again, that's when you need to just focus on self-care, and family and friends and support, and you know, outside of the job as well. And I think something that helped me was also forming friendships with my colleagues, because we would go outside for a drink and like talk about like something hard that we've gone through that day. And I'm still friends with some of my ex-colleagues because yeah, they're just a beautiful group of people. Everyone who I worked with in youth justice have the biggest heart and mean so well by working in the field. So yeah, it was definitely rewarding.
I think in a way the wall will work for criminology students too, though, because some of the stuff we read is horrendous.
Oh, 100%.
And it's hard to just step back and be like, wait,
yeah,
this isn't my life.
Exactly.
I'm just reading. Just breathe.
100%. You have to, otherwise you're not going to last in the job. It's not possible. So you have to focus on longevity and endurance. Otherwise you'll get burnt out like this. And yeah.
Well, I don't have any more questions. Do you, Corinne?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa.
Really
we really appreciate it.
That's okay. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see two very passionate people, you know, who are the future of our criminal justice system. So yeah, well done. And for anyone else listening, keep up the good work. You're almost there. Keep pushing and it'll be all worth it in the end, I promise.